Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, has arrived in Austin, Texas for a two-step of races here at Circuit of the Americas. This is a track that has it all: long straights, high-speed sweepers, tight turns, and over 130 feet of elevation change. Since hosting GT racing for the first time in 2013, COTA has consistently challenged the continent's finest drivers, and today that tradition continues with a 90-minute dash to the checkered flag.
Welcome to round number 3 here in the Fanatec GT Series. We are at a homecoming weekend for SRO America here at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. 17 GT3 machinery is going to take to the track and add to the sweet harmony of the sounds here in Austin, Texas. We have a local guy racing in the championship this season, Will Hardiman. He's been at this racetrack every month for the last 8 years. Let's take a ride around the Circuit of the Americas with Will Hardiman.
Hi, I'm Will Hardiman, driver of the number 19 Mercedes AMG GT3, here to give you your Fanatec preview of Circuit of the Americas. Now, here's turn 1. You can fire it in a little early and narrow, or you can prioritize the exit and get a little bit better launch out of the exit with a wider entry. Now, here at turn 2, we like to nibble the apex if you're having a little bit of understeer to mitigate that. S's, you want to really fire it in deep and keep your rolling speed up. 4th gear through those, nibble all the turtles. Now you have turn 6, where we'd like to just keep a tidy line, a little bit tight and low, maybe a little bit of a diamond. Turn 7, we like to roll through this with just a little bit of a lift. Keep it tidy and tight within the corkscrew here, turn 8 and 9. Now we have a blind entry into turn 10, so it's wide open flat, all the way into 11. We have a downhill brake zone, but then it's ascending up to the apex, so the front end grip actually picks up here. You really want to get a good exit out of 11 because it's the longest straightaway on the track. Use all the exit curbing that you can. Time to sit back and relax, look at your gauges, talk on the radio, check everything, and just take a deep breath and relax before you get into the next brake zone of turn 12, which is the highest speed portion of the track. Braking a little after the 1 to 50, going in nice and deep and trying to carry some speed through here. Use all the exit curbing, down to 2nd gear, up to 3rd, back down to 2nd quickly for turn 13. Try to be patient before you get to power through here. Now we have the stadium section, and just try to keep your rolling speed up. The car's on a knife edge right here, but get out of this section nice and easy. Use all the exit curbing. Open the carousel up as much as you can, then turn in early where the groove is. Don't go too high where the marbles are. And then I like to keep it a little tidy and tight on the exit. Now you want to hustle the car to the right for turn 19 here. A little bit of a downshift here. The car's a little loose today. And then keep your rolling speed up through the apex. Now the final corner 20, you want to open up and keep it tidy. Use all the apex curbing, and that's a lap at Circuit of the Americas.
After stops in Sonoma and New Orleans, it is a homecoming for SRO America as we come right here to Austin, Texas at the Circuit of the Americas. Fanatec GT is going to have 17 entries on the grid this weekend, and as they say, everything is bigger in Texas. Just look at that guy. 419 steps later, we are at the top of the tower here to look over that impressive shot of turn number 1 here at COTA. It's one of the most action-packed corners in all of racetracks in North America, and that is exactly what this Fanatec GT class is going to have to face as we kick off race number 1 and 2 here in Austin. But let's go straight to that pro category. Take a look at the pairing of Eric Filgaris and Stephen McAleer with 2 wins on the season. They come in as the points leader, but Bill Oberlin and Chandler Hull picking up that victory in NOLA puts them right there against that Porsche. Racer's Edge will look to bounce back this weekend. Not the brightest spot for them in NOLA, but they'll turn things around here this weekend. Well, if turn 1 isn't tricky enough, that entry into the S's here is going to set up teams for success all the way into the backstretch here at the Circuit of the Americas for our Pro-Am teams. George Kurtz and Colin Brown lead in that category, followed by Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson. What I love here is you go back to the performance as NOLA, and that's where you'll find in 3rd place Derek DeBoer. In our AM category, the Bartone brothers Racing are back out with us again this weekend as they gain experience for rookie Anthony Bartone. In addition to Fanatec GT for this homecoming weekend in Austin, you'll see the Pirelli GT4 class on track, GT America powered by AWS, as well as TC America powered by Skip Barber. Toyota, the GR Cup returns to us here this weekend, but a special shout out to Mr. GT World Challenge himself. James Sofronis celebrates 350 races. Well done, James.
Thanks so much, Amanda. As you can see, it is a beautiful day here in Texas. The sky is starting to clear, 80 degrees, the temperature here in the state capital of Texas. Let's head down to the grid where we find Amanda and Calvin.
Well, Ryan, it's so beautiful here. You wouldn't even know that we might have had some conditions earlier this morning that made qualifying pretty interesting as the track continued to evolve. But I would like to say that, Cal, you joined me again on the grid, and NOLA, it was different conditions than it is now. So thanks for letting me borrow him, Ryan.
It's a long way for these little legs.
I want to talk about qualifying, though, because I know we have some mix-up here at the front of the grid that we're going to get to.
Right.
But there were some mega laps that were put down. What caught your eye?
Well, I think Manny Franco had the fastest time in that qualifying session this morning. Absolutely executed. The team timed it to perfection. He was the last driver on the racetrack before we saw the checkered flag. Nailed the lap that looked good enough for pole. And then for Eric Filgares, he was going for 3 straight pole positions, but unfortunately came across some traffic going down into turn 12. The track was still damp on that side of the racetrack. Went on straight, missed that lap, but since that time there's been some changes.
Well, and you look at it, Eric looks like he's going to be
Right.
on that pole position. So what happened there?
Well, essentially, after qualifying, all of the cars have to have at least 2 kilograms of fuel in weight to be checked for any irregularities there. And both the 94 car and the 21 didn't have enough, so they get bumped down the grid a little bit. Not a big shake-up, but it does give that 28 car their 3rd consecutive pole, and they've done that every single weekend so far this year and gone on to take the victory. So there's a lot of work still to be done. That Porsche yesterday, when I spoke to Eric, he said the car is not good. I can't ride the curves through the S's. We're really in damage limitation here in terms of the points this weekend. They are the championship leader, but right now he can control his own destiny up into turn 1, which is really important here.
Cal, it's no secret, it is hot right now.
Right.
Yesterday we had some practice sessions and the cars were kind of sliding around towards the end of the afternoon. Is that something we should expect in the race here? And how do you maintain car control as you maybe lose the track here?
Well, I think we expected a much cooler day, which we started with, but now the sun has burst through here and the cloud cover's gone away, and that really changes things. I just spoke to Chandler Hull, who should have been on the front row. He starts 3rd right now in the Bimmerwell car, coming off a big win at NOLA. They were hoping for cooler conditions, so time management would be key, having the car that'll ride the curves, but I mean the long stint here, 40 to 50 minutes, having that pace at the end of the run is going to be a key to victory today.
Well, I think Ryan I can hear him calling your name to get back to the booth. So, Ryan?
Come back here, Cal. I need your help. Thanks for good to see Cal down on the grid, and thanks for sending him back my way. Looking forward to having him for the race call. We're closing in on the start of engines here just in a few short seconds, so stick with us. Exciting times here on the grid at Circuit of the Americas. Good to be back after a little bit of time away here at this track. In many ways, this is the best, the home track for the SRO America Championship. Many of the officials and higher-ups actually live here in Austin, Texas. So it's great to be back after a couple of years off the schedule. And as you can tell, the command has been given to fire up these 17 GT3 machines. They make their way out onto the racetrack now for the first of 2 formation laps behind the Toyota GR Supra safety car. So as Calvin talked about, it is a pole for the 3rd consecutive time for Eric Filgares from RS1. Not exactly the way he planned it, of course, inheriting the pole due to the technical infractions for a pair of cars in qualifying this morning, but it keeps his streak alive, and that is certainly something that they will relish. They've been struggling this weekend. More on that story and a whole lot more to come, but now let's check back in with Amanda.
One of our guests from CrowdStrike this weekend with some words that drivers want to hear this weekend. But Philip Pappen, I know you have something you want to say to our competitors on track.
I do. Racers, let's get ready to rumble!
All right, that could be a new tradition. I like that. Thank you so much, Philip, for the passion. Great to have you here on site. And I think we are just about ready to rumble at this stage. You can see a great mix of cars. Certainly very heavy towards the Mercedes side of things, that's for sure. But that said, it's a front row that consists of a Porsche and a Ferrari. So here we go. Eric Filgaris and Manny Franco, that's your front row. Chandler Hull looked like he was going to be on a front row before that penalty. Slots back in third. Seth Lucas in fourth. And back in row 3, Will Hardeman, the hometown kid. Great qualifying effort. And George Kurtz alongside. Adam Adelson and Anthony Bartone making up row number 4, starting 7th and 8th respectively. Charlie Luck going for that Pro-Am title here this year. He'll have Derek DeBoer alongside. Derek joined once again by Valentin Haseclo for the 2nd straight race weekend. Scott Smithson and Samantha Tan from ST Racing and DXDT Racing make up row 6. Then you find Jeff Burton and Pedro Torres in row number 7. Rolling back the grid to row 8, Ashton Harrison, Racer's Edge. They've really been struggling for pace this weekend. Difficult qualifying for her. She'll have Ziad Gondor alongside and Justin Wetherill in the Triarce Competizione Ferrari at the back of the field. Justin certainly getting a bit more comfortable as the year has gone along with that new Ferrari 296, and his co-driver Ryan Dial very fast in qualifying this morning for the 2nd of the 2 races here this weekend. One more time, we go down to the pit lane and Amanda Busick, who is standing by with a very special guest.
Well, we teased it earlier in the Open. It is a very special weekend for James Safronis, competing in his 350th race within the series. You're going to wave the green flag, but you think about the history within this. Your family is here. How much has this meant to you?
Well, it means a lot. I mean, having them here is making it extra special. And just think it's been 350 starts, and I've loved every minute of it. You know, started from nothing. My brother and I started with basically helping one another and growing it into GMG Racing and helping other guys like myself, you know, become racers. And that's the best part of my job, is mentoring and teaching and coaching guys to follow my footsteps and realize their dreams. So I got my little son here who's definitely going to be following my footsteps, so I'm excited for that. And Chloe, I have to just brag about her. She was awarded valedictorian for her class this past week, and I'm getting emotional. Good timing with the car. I love having my wife here too. She's been very supportive.
Well, James, as the cars go by us, there are many green flags that you've seen in your career. I guess 350 now. You're going to wave it. What's the pressure there?
No pressure at all. I'd rather be racing maybe a little bit, but the best thing here is to start another race and be here with my family. I have a lot of friends and crew that have been very supportive over the years, and I wouldn't be here without a lot of them and a very supportive family. So I love them very much, and I'm proud to be here, and I'm not done yet. So I want to hit 400, and I'll be racing with my son soon, so that'll be great for that too.
Congratulations on a wonderful milestone.
Thank you very much.
Made that start earlier today to James Safronis in GT America, powered by AWS competition. Right there fighting for a podium, as we've come to expect. A career in this series that started back in 1994. A one-off start at Road America. He said he spent his entire life savings at that point on a chance to get that ride, and what a good investment that turned out to be.
Such a solid competitor. He still brings the passion to the racetrack, and he just does a wonderful job for all of his customers with the various racing programs that he has underneath him.
There's a look at the front of the field. Again, Eric Filgaris, no stranger to this position. One twist to the story, though. We talked about what happened with the penalties in qualifying, but what happened in qualifying, too, I think, was just as interesting, because most of this season, Filgaris has been great in qualifying. His co-driver, Stephen McAleer, though, has started further back in the second race, and that will be different tomorrow. Yeah,
really solid run for Stephen McAleer as well. So for RS1 to turn things around from where they felt they were at yesterday morning and after practice. So that's a quality group, and I said to Eric at the time, I said, keep the faith, they'll keep turning the knobs, and they seem to have figured it out overnight.
One last look at low speed of the field as it comes by down the back straightaway. The green flag set to come out here in just a few moments. This track, Calvin, so challenging. Lots of mixes of corners, high speed, low speed, elevation change galore. Packs a lot into nearly 3.5 miles.
It does. It's very, very challenging. There's a lot of straightaways here too, so you can't afford to have too much downforce and drag in your machine. But I think compliancy over the curbs is key. Balance is then going to be key, and now it's warmed up a little bit, maintaining the balance. You don't want to be overdriving one end or the other of the race car in terms of understeer or oversteer. Otherwise, you probably could be hanging on literally at the end of your stint.
It's a look at the TRG Racing Aston Martin. Had their best run of the season the last time out at NOLA Motorsports Park. Derek DeBoer and Valentin Haseclo excited to see what they can do here this weekend at this fantastic venue located just outside of the state capital of Texas. Field in 2x2 alignment. The lights are off on the Toyota GR Supra safety car. Your Rover Pole Award winner, Eric Filgaris, has the field in hand. Coming towards turn number 20, that left-hand bend onto the front straightaway with the green flag awaiting in just a few short moments. The heart starts to flutter as the field makes its way towards that starting line. Eric Filgaris on the right-hand side of the screen, approaching the VP acceleration zone. James Sifronis has the green flag in hand, and we are racing. Race one of the weekend at COTA.
Great jump there from Chandler Hull on the second row of the grid. You can see it there, the white BMW pokes his nose to the inside. Manny Franco trying to swing around the outside. Can he grab that position back by the time they get to turn 2? Yes, he does.
Oh, a little spin further back. That's Smithson, I believe, who's gone around. It's been an up-and-down weekend for him in the DXDT Racing number 08. Mercedes and Hardiman spins in the middle of the pack. Hits that Armco on the right-hand side of the track, but looks like he'll be able to continue on. Might have suffered some damage, but that could have been a lot worse. That happened right in the middle of this big battle.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty warm out there, but the tire temperatures aren't exactly where you need them. Not sure if he took a little bump there, but what a disappointing start to this race that showed so much promise here this weekend.
Man, Franco's got his hands full. Big opposite lock moment as he was heaping the pressure onto Eric Filgaris, the pole sitter. Has to settle back in line, and now coming under attack from Chandler Hull and the BMW. Oh,
Derek DeBoer down to the outside. Big commitment down into turn 11 inside of George Kurtz in the CrowdStrike Racing entry.
George saw that coming and gave him a wide berth. Now they'll drag race down this back straightaway. It's British supercar against German supercar. Headed down to turn number 11.
Yeah, Derek got to want to try and keep him out there a little bit. Wouldn't have traction there on the dirty part of the racetrack, but George is hanging tough. But looks like Derek DeBoer, and now we see side by side once again. Franco just hanging on in that number 21 Ferrari.
Hull was able to pull up alongside, but couldn't complete the pass. Franco continues to fight on the outside. Got him checked a little bit, slides wide. Can Hull clear him? Yes, he can. Hull up to the second spot now.
And this is perfect for Eric Filgaris. He's able to get into his rhythm, not have to defend, just can hit his marks, right, run the nice wide radius through some of these corners and maximize his lap time.
Franco mounting a counter-offensive here, nearly pulled back alongside the BMW, but couldn't get it to stick there. Right behind, that's where you find Seth Lucas, who's dropped one spot, started P3, now runs P4 in that Porsche.
He's keeping them tight. Gander, is that a big star? Who's that sitting there in 5th? Or is that Kurtz?
That's Kurtz.
That's Kurtz, yeah.
With DeBoer in tow, those two sorting out their drag race a few moments ago.
Yeah, that was nice by George there, coming off a big GT America victory a little bit earlier this afternoon, so his confidence is high right now.
Hasn't had the best of seasons in GT America, but here in Fanatec GT, it's been a great year. They've won twice overall, the CrowdStrike by Riley team. Co-driver Colin Brown. Points leaders coming into this race in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, they're really hitting their stride right now. They want to go so much better than they did last year. Had victories last year, but didn't finish that high up in the championship. But they're having a really solid campaign so far this season. Manny keeping the pressure on Chandler Hull there. Filgaris has about a 2.5 second lead, it looks like.
Manny not shy about coming forward. Here he comes in the braking zone. Hull saw him, left him just enough room. Side by side as they exit turn 11. Now that drag race down the backstretch to 12. Nicely
judged there by Manny. Didn't overrush the corner, just got to the inside. But you can see Chandler gets up and off the corner pretty well. They have had some power taken away from that BMW since NOLA, where they had pretty strong top speed, but over the lap they are pretty equal. See Chandler again gaps the Ferrari by a car length and a little bit. Seth Luke's done a nice solid job there in the 53 MDK Porsche.
He's having the same thought. He's had some good runs. They've been on the podium. He and Trenton Estep, very young lineup for that MDK team based out of Columbus, Ohio. But this is up maybe a little further towards the very front of the field overall speaking for Seth Lucas than we've seen him so far. He's really coming into his own here at this stage of the season.
Yeah, and he's the 4th of the 4 Pro cars leading this race right now. George Kurtz leads in Pro-Am over Derek DeBoer. He's also a Pro-Am runner.
5th Pro Class car is back in 13th overall. That's where you find Ashton Harrison.
Yeah, I had a quick chat with Mario Farnbacher, her teammate here, a little while ago as I was walking down the grid, and he said, yeah, we got the car a little bit better. Really struggled with Sector 3 in qualifying, but he said first two sectors were not too bad, even though not the strongest weekend for the Acura NSX here.
Riding on board with Samantha Tan, the Canadian, got a nice run out of the final turn, has some momentum. Charlie Luck fading to the inside defensively, forces her down to the apex. But Samantha Tan is not deterred, able to pull alongside, but can she keep it there?
Yeah, I mean, I think Charlie was certainly reacting, but he certainly gave a lane there to the inside. Samantha wasn't quite able to shove through and gain that position, and Charlie just opened up his hands on the exit of turn 1 and maintained that track position right there. So nice job by both of those guys. Girls and guys, should I say.
You can see that BMW really closing in through the S's. The word is that car is very good up and over these curves, straddling some of those apex curves that can be very, very rough.
Yeah, I asked Chandler Hull about that. He said, no, I just attack and go straight over the top, which is really an asset to have here.
The Porsche camp, though, is somewhat less sanguine about their chances of just straddling those purple or orange curves.
Derek
around. Oh, he was running just outside the top 5 at the time.
Yeah, running P2 in class, so this is not going to help their chances here today. He was having a really solid run. Not sure if there was contact with he and George Kurtz, who they were running in close proximity with one another.
Torres leads that trio coming into the corner. Now we jump back on board with Samantha Tan. She's chasing the trio we were looking at a moment ago, and I didn't even realize he had Charlie Luck alongside until he popped ahead. Wow.
Yeah, I spoke to Jan Halen, Charlie Luck's teammate, on the way into the track this morning. He said, you know, the car's good, it's got good downforce, but we struggle a little bit down the straightaways, even compared with our sister car, which is the older generation Porsche, the number 120 for Wright Motorsports. So Samantha obviously had a run, but Charlie just outlasted her into the brake zone there.
Great onboard shots there just a few moments ago from first Samantha Tan, then Ashton Harrison. Here's a replay of the start. Green flag waved by James Safronis. And they really fanned out deep in this pack. Filgaris, though, unchallenged from the pole position.
Yeah, and Hull looked like he had P2 secured, but Manny just ran around the outside. And then you see the quick spin there for Smithson. Hasn't had a perfect weekend by far, so they're on the rebound a little bit.
Tight racing through the S's for the first time. That's the spin from Hardiman. He's been able to continue on, still runs 15th overall. So the car may have taken some damage, but not enough to knock him out of the race. Getting word there's an incident under review between cars 43 and 007. 43 is Bartone, 007 is DeBoer.
Okay. Well, Anthony must have closed up on that little battle that was going on between George Kurtz and DeBoer for him to be there.
Might help explain the spin we saw a few moments ago.
We're also saying that Smithson may have got help up in turn 1, 93 and 08 is under review as well, with Ashton Harrison behind the wheel of the Racer's Edge machine.
That's who we ride on board with, watching the battle for position just out front of her windshield. Samantha Tan and Charlie Luck duking it out. Back to the overall leader, Eric Filgaris, who has not been able to pull away from Chandler Hall. Chandler setting into a rhythm now, keeping Manny Franco at bay. Then it's Lucas, the top 4 in pro, running 1, 2, 3, 4. Tan dives to the inside of Luck, and it looks like this time she will be able to clinch that position, so put the BMW ahead of the Porsche. Watching on is Mario Farnbacher. His co-driver Ashton Harrison was watching that battle develop and now finds herself locked in a duel with Charlie Luck.
Fantastic stuff right here. Samantha did a nice job, and she certainly wanted to make sure she secured that spot that time. Dove in early for the apex, and now has got back into a rhythm very quickly.
That was for 4th in Pro-Am. The battle that's brewing here between Luck and Harrison is not for class position. Keep in mind, every car here is GT3 homologated. No difference between the cars. The only difference in the class is driver experience and their FIA driver rating.
Yeah, for Ashton Harrison aboard that red NSX, she's going to struggle to get up into that top 4. They're running out front right now, but what she wants to do is minimize the gap between her car and those leaders for when she turns the reins over to Mario Farnbacher. A late move there up into turn 1. Charlie gives it just enough room, but then clears her on the exit.
These two battled plenty last year when Harrison and Farnbacher were Pro-Am class runners. That still what Halen and Luck find themselves running in here this year. So no strangers with one another. They were fighting for a championship last year.
Yeah, they had some great battles last year. Sensational season that they put together. Came right down to the wire at Indy.
Sure did. Every point ended up mattering. There were a few times last year that the Racers Edge team was able to salvage points, salvage a decent result on a day that really didn't look like it was heading their way, and that ended up making all the difference in the world. Again, Harrison taking a peek up the inside. Not sure how much Charlie really should be fighting, considering this is not for class position.
Yeah, and that's where you need a discussion with your team. I mean, these some of these drivers are so smart. They've got all the analytics going on inside their head. You see the big draft effect down this straightaway, about 0.73 of a mile from apex to apex, turn 11 to turn 12. Down to the inside, Charlie still wants to fight, but I think Ashton's going to clear him this time.
Slots in ahead of the Porsche does the Honda driver, graduate of the HPD GT3 Academy, in fact, Ashton Harrison. Won that championship 1 year ago by just 5 points, but needs a bounce-back weekend here at Circuit of the Americas. NOLA was simply a miserable experience for Racers Edge. 2 fifth-place finishes, and you might say, well, fifth doesn't sound bad, but there's only 5 cars in the pro class, and that's about as bad as it can be.
Yeah, that incident for avoidable contact that Eric Filgueras got called on, which was unfortunate, ended their day then. So, and Amari had a big charge going on, and he had a spin out, which is unusual for him. So, time to dust themselves down and come back, and then you come to a racetrack where you're not performing as well, so that's equally frustrating.
As you can see, your Pro-Am leader is George Kurtz, and he's doing in this race exactly what he did in the GT America race earlier today, grabbing the lead, scampering away, and leaving the rest of the class in his dust.
Yeah, and he's running similar lap times to what he did in that race as well. So heat of the day, car's obviously got good balance. This battle is not going anywhere.
No.
Filgueras has now gapped these drivers by just over 2 seconds, but Holland's hanging on here. A little slip there by Manny Franco, and here comes Seth Lucas to the inside in turn 10.
Boy, Seth needed no second invitation, did he? Very opportunistic, pulls alongside. Now who's the last of the late breakers? It goes to Franco, but is it enough? Ooh, a little touch between the two, nose to tail. Porsche into the Ferrari, and the Ferrari able to continue on, hanging onto that spot.
Yeah, great racecraft there by Manny. Just read the situation nicely. He was on the ideal line where there's more grip, was able to take his brakes in a little bit deeper than Seth, who's in the middle of the road.
Here comes Lucas again. Sensing weakness, perhaps. Pops to the inside. Franco pretty good on those brakes, though.
As soon as there's a battle, look how Chandler Hull has now escaped their attention.
Let's look at it again here, Calvin. This is how it all set up. Big moment there from Franco. Lucas pops inside.
Yeah, a little slip there coming through turn 9. Couldn't get back to power immediately, and Seth was there. Then you come down into the brake zone. Manny's online. He's got more grip, more rubber right there, and just slides it around the outside. Really nice.
Just a little love tap.
That's all good.
That's nothing between friends, right? Hull, Franco, and Lucas, all pretty much at the early stages of their respective careers. It's amazing to think that Chandler Hull of this group is the seasoned veteran, and he's only been around this for a few years.
That's crazy. And they've been on a good run. They had a really solid weekend at NOLA, Bill Oberlin and Chandler Hull. Bill was going for it on day 1, just missed his braking down into a very wet turn 1 there at NOLA, then they rebounded for the win the next day. So that was really solid points, and they're in a good points day again today. But the problem is the championship leader is in front of them.
Yep.
The Soul car, oh, big moment there for Manny Franco once again. He's out of rhythm right now, and you're getting a little bit wider, getting on the marbles maybe. You're not getting those tires in their best state in terms of a little bit of pickup possibly.
This section of the track, too, you get offline just a little bit, and it just compounds itself one corner to the next.
Yeah, you've got to arrest your speed and just get it back into sync. Big elevation drop down here into the brake zone. It's not quite as bumpy as it used to be, but even so, you have to be careful. Easy to get a little bit of ABS activated right there.
It's interesting hearing from Hardiman on the Fanatec track preview that as you get to the last part of the braking zone, you actually get a bit of incline, and that grip comes back. A little off there for Ziad Gondor. Is running back in 13th overall at the time of that. Let's see if we can get a look at what happened to Z-Hog, as he was known in his off-road racing days. A little off-roading here for Z-Hog.
Yeah, it's almost like he's trying to trim that corner a bit too much and kind of hooked the right front in the grass there. Just turned him around.
Like that dropped him back to 16th, second to last on the road. Derek DeBoer still trying to recover from his spin a little bit earlier. Do quickly want to mention as well, an incident has been reviewed and penalty issued to the 93 car of Ashton Harrison for incident responsibility, the contact between the 93 and the 08 of Smithson. So with that piece of information passed along, now let's head to the pits in Amanda.
Well, as you see that Manny Franco Ferrari on track right now, that is the poster car of the weekend heading into this home race for Manny as well. He's originally from Milwaukee but made the move down to Austin a couple years ago. But I was talking to them about this 296 and how it's handling in the heat. This is really the first time that they've been able to see what the Ferrari would be capable of in the heat. And guys, I'm going to go on your expertise here, but how different would these conditions today be based on what we've seen earlier this season?
Well, I think it's hot, it's slippery. We saw everyone complaining in free practice 2 yesterday when this track started to heat up. They lost the balance in the race car. So it's just it's not mind management as much as anything. You've got to look after your tires, but you've got to stay in the game. It's going to feel awful, but it's all about the team relating your pace compared to everyone else. You may feel like it's a disaster, but it's like, hey, you're as quick as anyone else out there. You need those sort of messages there to keep it all under control.
That was the drive-through penalty served by Harrison for the contact with Smithson at the start of the race. A couple other notes from race control. Drive-through penalty is issued to car 43 for contact with the 007. So as we were wondering, Bartone picks up the penalty for contact with DeBoer, which explains Derek's spin. And additionally, Samantha Tan, that ST Racing car, under investigation for an alleged pre-race infraction. That's the only information we have at this stage. But race control has been busy in the opening 17 minutes.
Yeah, well, there's certain timelines that have to be met with when the tires are fitted on the grid, when the car's back on the ground. So maybe they missed one of those. We'll try and get some clarity on that for you.
Adam Adelson has been charging his way forward. That is the green and yellow Porsche that is stalking Torres in the white and blue 911.
Torres pretty defensive there in a 15. Probably cost himself about 5 miles an hour apex speed with that line. Nonetheless, he keeps the position.
Adelson reeling Torres in. Torres has lost touch with George Kurtz, who is the leader in the class. This is for second and third in the Pro-Am ranks. So look at the Wright Motorsports crew watching their car.
Samantha Tan sits there in P4, but still waiting for an outcome on that alleged pre-race infraction, whether that'll be post-race or whether they'll get clarity on that and determine what they want to do about it.
The battle here between two stalwart teams from the Porsche camp. ACI Motorsports, that's who Torres drives for. Team out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, brand new to racing at the GT3 level, but so much experience with the 911 platform in GT3 Cup, as it was known, Carrera Cup, and Porsche Sprint Challenge, as it's now known, the two different single-make series available here in North America.
They've got help from KCMG, who they purchased that chassis from as well, with a couple of their personnel embedded in the teams. That's really helped this learning curve as well.
Meanwhile, Wright Motorsports, absolutely synonymous with both Porsche and success in North American road racing. That's the team that Adam Adelson chose to make the jump up to GT3 with at the behest and on the advice of his co-driver, Elliott Skier, who won a single-make Porsche championship for Wright Motorsports about a half a decade ago.
Yeah, and early in his career, Elliott Skier was kind of mentored by Pat Long time US Porsche factory driver, and he spent many years and wins and championships running for the Wright Motorsport team. Torres really runs a shallow line through there. I think it's cost both of these drivers a couple of 3/10 there with his line through that sector.
Pedro comes from single-make Porsche racing, finished 9th in the Pro-Am Class Championship in Carrera Cup North America last year for this team. Kurt Swearingen's operation, very busy on these SRO weekends, also has multiple cars running in Pirelli GT4 America.
He's really using a really wide line through turn 19. He's making it work, just keeping a big radius on that race car. Track limits are always a talking point when you come here. It's a real headache for the race director and the stewards to keep everyone on the right side of things. A big facility to have your eyes everywhere all of the time.
This battle here is for 2nd and 3rd in Pro-Am, and it's happening about 7 seconds behind the class leader, George Kurtz.
Skier there looking on. Teammate Adam Adelson in this yellow and green Porsche.
Such a fun pairing. Great friends off the track. Great competitors on it, teaming up together. Had some success last year in GT4, but Adelson looks right at home in this GT3 platform and has from day one.
Yeah, Torres is really trimming that grass there. When we had a chat with the stewards here this morning, they said if you start cutting the grass and kicking dirt through there, you may start to get some warnings in terms of track limits. So I'm sure if someone else has put dirt on the racetrack and he's running through that, or if he's actually dropping those right side tires in the grass.
Samantha Tan in the BMW behind that pair of Porsches. Then you find Charlie Lux, who's coming under pressure from Jeff Burton, but this battle has not relented one bit. Torres guards the inside. Adelson late on the brakes, trying to pull up alongside. Settles back in, looking to get that jump out of the corner. Can he make a run? Can he make a lunge? He's looking up the inside, but not close enough.
What can happen, you can really get out of your rhythm. So let's surmise that maybe Adelson has a bit more pace, but when you run many laps behind that driver who's running a certain line and certain apex speed, you kind of get into that same rhythm and cadence. So I think Adam needs to try and be a little bit bolder here and try and make a move, but Torres is being pretty determined with his defense to that position right now.
He's wide. That lets
Adelson
easier through. And that was a lot of pressure applied from Adelson finally having an impact, it would appear. Just that slight mistake, and now Torres under pressure here from Tan, who sends it up the inside as well into turn 20.
Yeah, we certainly talked about Torres exploring the outer edges of the track, and maybe he just got into the marbles then and just struggled getting the tires cleaned up for that following corner.
Out of the frying pan and into the fire here for Torres. The battle with Adelson is dissipated, but enter Samantha Tan.
She's really doing a nice job. Spoke to John Edwards, her teammate, yesterday, and said she's really come a long ways. She's mentored by Nick Johnson, longtime sports car driver over the years, and just has a ton of experience that he can lead her with. And as much discipline off the racetrack as on it, that he's just trying to teach her a new lifestyle and everything in terms of how you go about your business of being a pro racing driver.
Let's see if we can ascertain what happened to Pedro Torres here. Little twitch, goes out wide. Just like that, Adelson is through.
Yeah, that was early in the corner to suddenly get it loaded up. It's typically a little bit deeper as the road starts to fall away, where you start to lose the balance in the race car. So a little bit strange to see him have that twitch so early in that triple apex corner.
Samantha once again from Montreal. It's that beautiful, iconic Starry Night livery on the race car, or at least a version of it. We've seen that from this ST Racing team for so many years now.
BMW brand ambassador now. Driving with the BMW factory driver in John Edwards.
But racing a Ferrari in GT World Challenge Europe this year.
Maybe Eddie Jordan is their agent or something.
Let's learn more from Amanda.
Oh, Calvin just mentioned that Samantha is one of the BMW ambassadors right now, and she said that it was an absolute dream come true, and the idea that it's only her and Bill Oberlin that are representing the company, she just had the biggest smile on her face. She's going to have like 16 different appearances this year with that, including some hot laps at IMS. But I want to talk about her experience at COTA in the Ferrari Challenge Series last year. This was the first stop on that season, and she came here and swept the weekend. So she loves coming into COTA, loves the experience here, and as you said, John's been saying that she's improving, and she absolutely loves working alongside John in this series as well.
best result of the season, 4th in race 1 at NOLA. Definitely in a position to challenge to supersede that at some point here today. As we look in at Filgaris, who continues to lead 3.5 seconds the advantage over second place Chandler Hull. Hull has no such gap, as it was just half a second at the line between Hull and Franco. This team, RS1, the dominant team in Pirelli GT4 America last year, saw an opportunity to step up to Fanatec GT and have really impressed with their instant pace, especially Eric Filgaris, who's a GT3 rookie.
Yeah, we could say cut and paste, and maybe we spell paste P-A-C-E-D, because when you put this boy on the pole, he seems to deliver. RS1 going for their 3rd victory of the year from the pole position in race 1 on these weekends so far this year.
Here is the young man Chandler Hull, who already won the Asian Le Mans Championship this year. By virtue of that, earned a berth in the 100th anniversary running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And will be also in a Ferrari, if I'm not mistaken. Look at that, CrowdStrike fastest lap to the leader, Eric Filgaris, 2:06.998.
Also say these Pirellis are really performing well in the heat of the day, because he just ran a lap only about 7/10 shy of that deep into this stint, so really impressive.
Just at the top of the screen, Hull slipped up a little bit exiting turn 20, slipped a little bit wide, kicked up some dirt, but that BMW in a straight line, Calvin, they have been cut back somewhat, that advantage in a straight line relative to the last time out at NOLA, but it is still pretty darn stout.
Yeah, it certainly seems to have a little edge over Manny Franco's Ferrari right now, so that's kind of keeping Chandler in the game. But again, it's all about lap time. They're very evenly matched, so it's a ebb and flow to where that performance comes from. Kurt's just doing what he needs to do. Just really solid run. Got about a 7.5 second gap over Adam Adelson, who runs 2nd in Pro-Am right now. Then Torres, who's dropped back here in the last couple of laps. Exactly what Colin Brown would love to see. Just give it to me, George, and I'll bring it home.
3 podiums in the first 4 races for Kurtz and Brown. They lead the points by 4. Still very early in this young season. Last year finished 4th, but only 17 points out. It was a phenomenal battle for the championship in Pro-Am. There were 4 crews that went into the Indy 8 Hour, which is the season finale, with a shot at winning the title. It did not break their way, but they had a great season 1 year ago, and they're on pace to surpass some of the accolades that they earned last year.
Yeah, I think when you get George into his sweet spot, he's just so consistent. Just has a lot of confidence in this race car since making the move over to Riley last year. They've found a great home, and the consistency of the performances are now there week in, week out.
This is the leader by default, it must be said, in the AM class. Anthony Bartone served that penalty earlier for contact. Now finds himself running at the back of the pack, chasing Ashton Harrison, who too is trying to recover. Ziad Gondor was the Mercedes we saw a look at just up the road. Had to spin a little while back, and that cost Ziad quite a bit. Dropped it back to 15th. Daniel Morad, his co-driver, is going to have some work to do here relatively soon, Calvin. We're closing in on 30 minutes down to start this race. That pit window will open in 12 minutes. And for the Pro-Am class runners in particular, expect to see them make an early call, put the pros in as soon as possible.
Yeah, and today it's going to be a 76-second minimum pit lane delta time. So you can't be below that. There's no joker this year. So you got to be a little bit more cautious with how fine you cut it. But yeah, you're right. Typically in the Pro-Am lineups, you're going to get the AM driver out a little bit sooner, try and get your pros in and maximize their time. That can backfire if someone elects to pit a little bit later, and then there's a reset with a caution, and suddenly that second driver may have an advantage in terms of tire life, but you're probably going to put the safety net in and bring the driver in early.
This stint for Bartone, admittedly with the penalty, it has not gone the way that that team would have hoped, but he is matching Ashton Harrison lap for lap here these last few laps. And if you think about this year as a learning year for Anthony, first year in GT3, that is a sign of real progress. That's something he can take, even if the result overall, and that's really all they care about because they're the only M-Class car, even if that result perhaps is not there. Franco taking a peek at Chandler Hull. This battle has not gone anywhere, and Seth Lucas very much waiting in the wings, waiting to see might there be a chance to go on the offensive himself.
Oh, Hull's a little bit wide there. You see Manny really trying to set this up. He's going to try and swing across his apex, gain a little bit of exit speed right here, get a run on him. Filgueras, that's keeping him interested. It's not like he's just disappeared into the distance. He still sits there about 4 seconds ahead, but they can see him. That's a nice feel. You can still see him at least. Track limits there. If you're out of bounds, would be if no tire is touching that second of the white line just outside the green painted area. It's a little bit different regulation for each individual corner around this race circuit. It gets pretty convoluted and complex, but they're trying their best to manage it. You can almost be in a different zip code in a couple of these corners. There's so much blacktop to work with.
It's a blessing and a curse, isn't it? Because it gives you room, if you make a mistake, to safely arrest the speed, to escape a bad situation. But on the other hand, it does leave those in charge of the rules with a big task to make sure everybody adheres to the racing line, which is part of the International Sporting Code.
Seth Lucas, really solid job here, keeping it tight. Has a little dive to the inside. Oh, look at Manny Franco. That's really dirty in that corner right now. That's the one I was talking about earlier where Torres was kind of trimming the grass. It got pretty dirty there and nearly sent Manny into a spin.
We've seen this before. Lucas aggressive at this part of the track after a little slip up from Franco. That time, Franco very preemptive in his defense. Lucas trying to put that power down with the rear engine Porsche. Let's look at this one more time, Cal.
Take a look at that. You can see the dust is flying from Chandler Hull, and then Manny goes over the top of it and nearly loses the rear of the Ferrari there right in front of Seth.
Quick hands.
Seth has got a run on him down the back stretch.
Yes, he does. Franco gives him that outside lane again.
Nice racecraft. I'm really impressed this early in his career with the racecraft that Manny Franco displays.
Well, I think he learned his lesson from Sonoma, right? That second race, grabbed the lead from Ashton Harrison late in the going. Looked like he was en route to his first win. Forgot to guard the inside into the hairpin. Ashton,
he will not forget that one.
Went barging through and took a dramatic victory. And Manny, to his credit, put his hands up and said, yep, rookie mistake. Should not have left the door open for Ashton to make that move.
Yeah, it's all about hanging on at that stage of the game. Do whatever you need to do. Park the race car, literally, if you have to. Don't leave them away by.
Lucas, too, really young man, just a teenager. Did run at the 24 Hours of Dubai, ran the Indy 8-hour last year. But aside from that, all of his experience road racing has been either in Trans Am cars or GT4 machines.
Yeah, really nice young kid. Got a ton of talent. I think he's just feeling the ropes a little bit right now. Got pace. Just got to determine where he gets aggressive right now. I think there's been a couple of opportunities for maybe him to force it a little bit more, but he's still sitting there really solidly in the top four, and they're not that far back for Trent Nestor to go do some work here in the second phase of this race.
Got hooked up with fellow Ohio native Mark Kwame, whose MDK Motorsports team is the team that is fielding this Porsche here, currently running in 4th in the Pro Class and overall. That's a team based out of Ohio. Seth, also from Ohio, he said it's just a coincidence. That's not why. Didn't really even know Mark before this deal came together. But that's a team that's on the rise. Moved into the IndyCar and prototype team, Meyer Shank Racing's old race shop just outside of Columbus, Ohio. I believe that's the shop they were working out of when Mr. Castroneves won his 4th Indy 500 a few years ago.
Pretty cool stuff. But no, they're doing it right. Got a really good group of people there and building things rapidly. Stephen McAleer, smile on his face. He's happy with their progress so far this weekend. And again, we talked about yesterday, they didn't feel they were in a happy place, but they continued to tweak and work on that Porsche. They didn't give up. They didn't get frustrated. And that's the quality of the engineering staff they have there as Franco starts to deepen the pressure here on Chandler Hull for P2.
Seen Manny certainly aggressive, wringing that car's neck for all it's worth. It's been sideways on him time and time again, but he's been able to catch it And now remounting that attack on Chandler Hole, who currently sits in second. Here comes Franco, deep on the brakes, and he slides inside. Now, who wins this drag race down into turn 1?
That was nicely done. Chandler was just really running that nice wide line to set up for a good exit off of turn 20, and Manny just took the invitation. Chandler trying to squeeze him.
Whoa! Big contact between the two and hard into the retaining wall. Two contending cars eliminated in turn 1 with 55 minutes to go.
That's really unfortunate.
Safety car deployed.
They were just playing a game of chicken right there, and Chandler was trying to get over to that inside lane and contact. Need another replay, but first look at it, I thought probably the brunt of responsibility is on Chandler's shoulders there.
That's really a shame. Those are two fast race cars that will take no further part of the action, and now we hope for the best.
We're going to delay pit lane opening, so
yep.
Only 5 minutes away from that.
What this also will do is breathe fresh life into the respective races of Racer's Edge, TR3, Real Time, all those teams that had the penalties earlier, Derek DeBoer who had the spin. They'll all close right back in, and it'll be a total reset.
And the timing of it as well for points.
Yeah.
You're going to be shy of 50%, I feel.
For the cars that were out, yeah.
It's done by laps, right? So if you had a lot of caution in the second phase of the race, but say the odds are they will not make it.
And that's big because as we talked about earlier, in the pro class, just 5 cars, as long as you are running at the finish or you make the 50% mark of the race, you will score 5th place points at the fewest, at the least. However, if you go out earlier, you will score no points. If you don't make it to the 50% mark, and everyone in front of you will score big-time points. That's not happened yet this year, and that can make a big dent in that points table.
That's a shame for Chandler Hull because they'd had a really solid weekend at NOLA, running up in the podium spot once again here. We'll get another look at it, but it just seemed like they were kind of leaning on each other, and then just the bump was just a bit too severe there.
Those two were giving no quarter, were they? Now then, straight away and into turn 1. Big contact. Manny Franco and Chandler Hall out of this race from 2nd and 3rd overall. Safety crew on site attending to those damaged race cars in the field. Slow now, just waiting to be picked up by the safety car, which is there at pit exit.
Way offline, as you can see at the top of the screen there, just to make sure they don't catch any of that debris field.
There's a lot of debris, definitely. We saw it flying off the cars, and some of that is by design. These modern race cars, if you see bits flying off of them, that's part of the effort to dissipate energy, make sure the energy doesn't get to the driver there inside the cockpit. But it does create a debris field for everyone else to go through, especially with so much carbon fiber on these modern day race cars. And that carbon fiber doesn't take much. It can be very, very sharp, and that can cause a puncture. You have to be very careful with that. On board here with Samantha Tan, who continues to circulate behind the safety car. Good opening stint from Samantha.
Yeah, we're still waiting to see what the problem was pre-race. Some sort of infraction was being looked at. We haven't really had determination on whether they are going to get a penalty for that or not. But so far, this is really good news for John Edwards. He's going to be a lot closer to the front of this field when he jumps on board here, and it's game on. It's really going to change the dynamic of this race.
Let's talk about some of the pros that are about to get aboard these Pro-Am cars. So George Kurtz will be turning it over to Colin Brown in the Pro-Am lead. Adam Adelson to Elliott Skier. Pedro Torres to the veteran Spencer Pumpelly. John Edwards, as you mentioned, takes over for Samantha Tan. Jan Halen, you know he's going to be on a charge for Charlie Luck. Let's look at this replay one more time. This was the big move into the braking zone of 20. This is how Franco got alongside. Maybe forced Toll a little bit wide, but now this is when things started to get ugly, Cal.
Well, Manny's trying to come to the right a little bit, and then right there was just that last move by Chandler, just over to the left. Manny was pretty much in it. He was leaning right initially, but then he pretty much straightened it out, and there's a little jink to the left by Chandler, I feel, that created the contact. Sometimes when you're turning as well, those tires stick out of the fenders a little bit, and it just grabs the other car and shoots it.
The report is that both drivers are out of the car and have escaped any significant injury, which is great to see. That was a big contact there with the outside wall. When the contact wheel-to-wheel was made, it looked like maybe tire got cut or suspension was broken, so they really had no control at that stage and went at a high rate of speed into that Armco barrier. As you can see, the pit window will be delayed here due to this yellow. What that does is once we get restarted, it'll be the next time around the window opens. It will be open for 10 minutes from that point onwards. And the full service pit stop and driver change must take place within that window here at COTA and must be done within that minimum time delta, 76 seconds from pit in to pit out by regulation here this weekend. Let's go ahead and check in with Amanda down in the pits.
Yeah, I'm going to start on Alessandro Balzan. When I got over to Conquest Racing, he was looking at his phone, audibly yelling, "That was not nice, that was not nice." I'm showing you a video of him right now. He's going to show one of his teammates the replay. We were on standby to talk to Alessandro, but as he saw the replay on the big screen that we just showed, he said, "I'm going to need 5 minutes. I'm way too hot right now." You can see he's animated right now as he's looking at the replay. I did talk with Bimmer World to check on Chandler and kind of just some reaction from the BMW driver, and did say that Chandler was talking and very angry and very mad as well. So we'll get an update on Bimmer World as this unfolds.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. I know those could be difficult interactions down in the pit lane, and look at the despondent reaction there from Alessandro. One more look at this here, Calvin.
Yeah, so Chandler was running that big wide entry line there, and Manny just took it, so that's all legit. And you can see there, Manny's kind of inching over to the left. So right here, this is probably where Chandler's a little bit mad, because it looks like Manny's veering to the right, but then that last move was really... Manny was in a straight line. I don't think he moved at that point, and then the contact was made with Chandler's little deviation over to the left side. So it wasn't egregious, but it was enough, right? And that's the consequences at high speed. They're up into that brake zone.
Fine margins, that's for sure, and the end result is two badly damaged race cars. But again, the good news, both drivers are reported to be okay, and we're certainly glad to hear that news. Closing in on the halfway mark of this race, why don't we go ahead back down to the pits and we can hear the Bimmer World side of the story, Amanda.
Standing by with Bill Oberlin, and at this point we've seen several of the replays, and you're a veteran in this series, veteran to racing. Your assessment of the interaction between Chandler and Manny?
You know, I mean, they're getting super racy. It was early in the race, and I think Chandler didn't exactly know where he was. It looked like Chandler kind of cut across, bumped the Ferrari, which would have been all good, except the Ferrari climbed up on top of him, and that caused a major malfunction. What it is, it's so fun to watch Chandler just progressing. Last race out, we were in New Orleans. We win the race. We're on the podium in the race before that. It's fun to watch this kid just get faster and faster and faster. He qualified front row, and it's just neat. That was unfortunate. I told my guys, I'm like, have him drive like 50 feet ahead of the Ferrari, and we could maybe finish ahead of it because we're still right there in the points. We're still going for this championship, and I'm having too much fun.
I talked to Chandler yesterday, and he said sometimes like getting that race win, there's almost more pressure to defend it. You talked about watching him develop. There's going to be probably a lot of work needed to be happening to that BMW tonight, but just looking at where you guys are and any assessment on whether we'll see you tomorrow or not?
I mean, it looked like it hit I think the right front corner pretty solidly. We don't have an overabundance of parts, but I'll tell you this, Bimmer World crew, if it can be put back together, they've put back together some crazy broken stuff. So we'll leave it to them. We'll see. When that thing comes back, we'll assess. And, man, I just hope we're back out tomorrow. We're not qualified so good. We had sort of a little bit of a tough time with the BOP. And Chandler would he would do like he did in New Orleans, climb his way to the front and try to win the race for us tomorrow. That's what we were hoping for, but it wasn't to be.
Just lastly, as his co-driver, what are you going to tell Chandler after seeing him?
You know, what people don't realize is this is a confidence game, right? I'm going to do anything I can so that we don't knock into his confidence, because that's where this speed comes from. It's all about the stopwatch and those tenths, and he's been doing great. This is nothing to do with confidence. He didn't blow it. He just made if there's a judgment error on what he thought the outcome was going to be, I would have never thought by bumping somebody you'd have a car crawl up on you and cause that. So that was just an unfortunate, outside effect of what happened. But he had a run on him, and maybe he could have got side by side into one, come out. I mean, I understand what he's doing. He did the right move, just didn't come out quite the right way.
Your thoughts, Calvin?
Yeah, I think Bill is certainly defending his teammate there a little bit. I agree. It wasn't. I've seen a lot uglier moves.
Sure.
See no incident happen, but it was just the contact at the wrong time. And as he said, Manny's Ferrari just climbed up over the BMW and both cars are out. So there's no blame on Manny. He was certainly leaning on him. I think Chandler, if he was angry on the radio, he probably felt, well, Franco was leaning on me a little bit, and it was nip and tuck there. But at the end of the day, the point of contact, if you did have to lay responsibility on anyone, and I think Bill even alluded to it, that Chandler had moved on him a bit.
I think Amanda brought up a great point. We were talking about the fact if they do not get to 50% here in this race, not scoring points, but the chances of the damage being so significant that maybe they can't run tomorrow. There is the potential of this being almost crippling to any championship aspirations in one kind of ill-fated move.
Yeah, and these cars are built in kind of a modular way, so if it's just bolt-on suspension pieces, I'm sure they'll be good to go. But if it gets into the chassis and the pickup points and stuff like that, that's a lot more complex fix. So hopefully it's not damaged enough that they can't see action tomorrow. Otherwise, that would really hurt them in the championship standings. I love Bill the way he thinks. So he's thinking, oh, just drag the car, get out and pull it down the road so you're in front of the Ferraris. Look for another timeline. He's not probably thinking about that 50% mark in terms of time for points.
That's right. Cleanup continues at Circuit of the Americas. If you're just joining us, two-car accident between Manny Franco and Chandler Hull up in turn 1. Both cars out of the race. Both drivers reported to be okay, but we've had a lengthy safety car here going on about 10 minutes at this stage. The pit window has been moved, and that will happen a little bit later, and that means a short stint for the second drivers to jump in. Not too much to worry about as far as managing your tires. This figures to be an all-out sprint to the finish when we get restarted, and it looks like that could be coming very soon because the lights are off on the safety car. This is a look, though, again at that Manny Franco car and all the damage that it sustained. The Conquest crew figures to have a long night ahead of it. Here comes Phil Garris, the race leader, into the VP acceleration zone, and he is on the power, leading a Porsche 1-2 at the front of the field. Eric Filgaris for RS1, Seth Lucas for MDK, and the Pro-Am leader George Kurtz running third and making a bid for second overall.
Yeah, Kurtz is kind of in a difficult situation here. It's not a class car that he's fighting in front of him, but he's got Adam Adelson all over his tail right now. That is a battle for position.
Yeah, that yellow brought Adelson right to George Kurtz, wiped out a massive lead that was approaching double-digit seconds. That is the third and fourth cars through this train. The top two, though, are fighting for class position and the overall lead as well. Phil Garris and the youngster Seth Lucas.
Filgaris' car doesn't look like it's come alive quite as quickly as it did in the beginning phase of this race. I'm not sure if he didn't quite prep the tires enough. Either way, he's just got to try and hang on, and we expect pit lane to be open here towards the halfway point in this race. Halfway point in this lap, should I say. Filgaris protecting down to the inside. It's all going to be on the crews right now. You got to nail this pit stop, maintain that track position if you have it. For others, they're looking to leapfrog here.
Pit window is open. That's the message from race control. They try and time it to be at an even minute. So I believe that started with 42 minutes to go, which means that everyone must begin for service by 32 minutes to go. Yeah, not sure we're going to see too many people go too deep into this stint. Certainly not in the Pro-Am ranks, but time will tell.
That stop time is 76 seconds. You can't be underneath that. Last couple of seasons, we've run with a 1 second joker that you could use one time a weekend. You're not allowed to do that.
This is on board again with Samantha Tan.
Should see a lot of action on pit lane. We'd anticipate someone may take a bit of a flyer and keep out there and just try and lay down a really fast in lap and do the overcut. We're Don't seen a lot of tire deg as well, so that can be factor into your decision as well.
We're about to find out right here. Filgaris pits, Lucas pits, Kurtz pits, everyone coming to pit lane for service as the pit window is open. Just Hardiman stays out on track, as does Bartone. So 2 cars stay out. Well, I guess we're down to a few fewer than that, but the rest of the field comes into the pit lane now, and it's going to be a busy, busy place, Calvin.
Yeah, a lot of it can be how you stack up with the other cars in pit lane. Do you have an easy in and exit of your pit box as well? All of those things will factor in, as crucial as this pit stop is, with everyone in at the same time, bar a couple of cars that are rolling the dice a little bit.
13 cars in the pit lane, full service, Pirelli tires, VP fuel going into these machines, and of course, crucially, that driver change.
Delay there, getting that right front out of the wheel well. Don't think that was enough to really be a factor. Spencer Pumpelli's got to be licking his chops here with an opportunity with the track position they have.
MDK down off the jacks first. RS1 still waiting. They release them. This is a drag race. This is for position.
There's overlap.
Yep.
The MDK car is going to get this track position.
Great pit work from the MDK crew, and the Ohio-based team should inherit the lead.
Yeah,
McAleer should have to relinquish that spot because there was overlap between the 2 cars.
Yeah, he's going to fight it, but I think he's got to give that up. I'm pretty sure the MDK had that left front fender up on the right rear of the 28. And his protocol has been in place now.
McAleer does lead for the moment. This is Morad leaving in the TR3 Mercedes. Let's look at this one more time. And the thing to watch, does the car in the fast lane have any overlap with the car in the slow lane?
Sure it does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're side by side, basically. McAleer, I mean, he's no different to the other championship that he runs in with that protocol there. He's got to realize he's got to give that up.
He has not yet. He continues to show the way. The Community Beer Works sponsored Porsche. These are the 2 cars that have remained on the track. Will Hardiman from SS Racing, Anthony Bartone for Bartone Brothers Racing with Real Time. And here comes Hardiman into the pits. It'll be the Irishman, Adam Carroll, set to take over controls.
Yeah, what you're looking at there with the overcut with pretty much tires that are well into their working range. That in-lap versus the out-lap with everyone else on new tires, but not quite up there. Come out of the tire ovens, out of the blankets, but they're not in their optimum range just yet.
McAleer has been ordered to let the 53 car through because of the overlap, as we have discussed. But man, this is bottling everyone up behind him. And George Kurtz, he's not waiting around. Why should he?
Yeah, it's Colin Brown now behind the wheel of the 04 car, but this is a problem. And McAleer is trying to manage this, and he's not done a great job of it. He's just bottled everyone up. Trenton Estem trying to maintain that track position out front. Colin Brown taking advantage here. McAleer did not handle that very well.
Estem to the lead, as was mandated, but now it's Brown who leads in the Pro-Am class, challenging for the overall lead as well, side by side.
Here comes Elliott Skier in that yellow and green Porsche as well. He's in the mix. Estem gets defensive there, down in the last corner. Skier to the inside of Colin Brown. Here comes John Edwards to the inside in the ST Racing BMW.
3 wide for the lead in Pro-Am. To the outside in the Mercedes, that's Brown. He's got Edwards inside. Drafting there is Skier. Skier's going to make a move to the inside. Oh, this filtering into the turn 1 at the top of the hill, and around goes Brown.
And these guys are best mates. They both live in Charlotte. They cycle together, and Edwards' car is damaged as well. He suddenly slowed, I believe.
Oh,
must have cut down a tire.
Well, we knew it was going to be crazy on the restart, and it was as advertised. So let's reset it. Effectively, what the lead will be once everything cycles through is Estep leading for MDK, running right behind, and in Pro-Am, the leader is Elliott Skier. McAleer second in Pro, but runs third on the road.
Well, that occurred because we saw that overlap in pit lane. McAleer got the message, and where he tried to get the MDK to pass him was not in the best spot. Colin Brown didn't know what to do with it. He was trying to take advantage, trying to understand the scenario, and then it just all got a little bit ugly.
We expect a cut tire to be the issue due to that contact for John Edwards.
See the steering wheel, he's in a straight line. Look at the angle of the steering wheel there from the onboard.
Oh, this will scupper what was shaping up to be a phenomenal race for ST Racing.
Could be a toe link, but I'm suspecting puncture.
Battle on for the overall lead here. Elliott Skier working over the back of Trenton Estep.
Porsche. It's the older generation car in second there. Generation right car behind him. And another Porsche Pampelli. We talked about him licking his chops in terms of that track position and compression at the front of this field.
We often talk about the straight. Oh, is there damage to the diffuser on Estep's car? It looked like it was bouncing up and down. Let's keep a close eye on that for the 53 that leads overall. The next tails away shot. Take a look at that.
Too bad.
This angle, I swear I saw that bouncing in the wind. Here comes Skier up the inside again, not for class position. Pro-Am car on Pro car. And Skier to the front.
Yeah, he just wants clean air on the front end of that Porsche, try and manage the race from this point forward. What a year they're putting together.
Take a look at that there, Cal. That is certainly broken, and that is going to hurt the rear aero on that car, and that's where it hurts, right there in the high-speed S's.
Big time.
Now, how hard will Trenton fight?
Oh, yeah, you can see it now.
With a wounded race car. This is for the Pro Class lead now. This battle right here, the second and third cars through the shot, Estep and McAleer.
Yeah, McAleer's loving what he's seeing right now. Wow, did he escape an ugly scenario there? Almost got turned around, survived, and is now going for the lead.
A couple others not quite so lucky, but here he comes. Oh, in contact there. That was Halen into the back of Lewis. Side by side, though, for the lead in Pro. Two cars nearly coming together in a straight line. We've seen that before, and it did not end well.
Now, these guys have got to tidy things up again. Big run by Pampelli here.
Pampelli makes it 3 wide into the hairpin. To the inside, and he slips on through, so that's another Pro-Am car that comes through the Pro Class leaders. Pro-Am now running 1 and 2. Estep fighting back. McAleer dives inside.
That's for the lead.
Yep.
Lead in Pro.
And he's able to slam that door shut. Estep, does he have a weapon to fight back with? I'm not sure he does. McAleer dive bombs inside of Pampelli, who has to give way, but he's still fighting, gambling around the outside here.
This is crazy. I love it. Battle we're seeing here.
Estep doing the best he can with a clearly wounded race car. Calvin, what does that diffuser do? And when it's damaged like this, what's the effect?
Well, it's going to be inconsistent, and that's what's a real problem. It's one thing if you lose a percentage of downforce, but the way it's rocking and rolling through the S's there, he's probably getting a different amount of downforce, corner dependent. Well, this is more than a tire. I think it might be a totaling or suspension issue now with Edwards' car up on the Jags.
Oh, that is heartbreak for the ST Racing team. There's Halen again taking a look up the inside. Corey Lewis in that Burton Lumber sponsored Mercedes just ahead. That is a fight for the final podium position in Pro-Am. Porsche Parade at the front. Top 4 are all 911s of various vintages. Then you get to the first of the Mercedes, and Corey Lewis, he can see the weakness there with the damaged car. Not much Estep can do, but he's going to fight as hard as he can.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. Look at that car sliding around. He's literally laying rubber there through the S's. You could see the tire marks as he was sideways there. That's not going to help tire management any.
Lewis to the inside. Halen tries to follow him through. Estep goes a little bit wide there.
Here comes VDC.
Yep. Valentin Haseclo, Aston Martin factory driver, now putting the pressure here on Jan Halen. Estep still in the mix as well. Halen will come through. Can VDC follow him through? VHC, excuse me.
Yeah, I screwed up the acronym there a little bit, but either way, Valentin is very much up on the wheel of this Aston Martin right now.
And the other car to watch is Mario Farnbacher, this car we're on board with right here, picking up the pieces on what has been a very difficult weekend. Oh, VHC with a big lunge, chops in front. Here comes Estep back around the outside. Farnbacher needs to get up to Estep. That's the next position in class within the pro ranks.
Wow, there's some crazy moves being made right now, and that's what this racetrack allows. You've just got so much real estate to work with, variety of lines, and people are catching other drivers off guard with some late moves.
Pit window closed, by the way, but it's been academic at this point. How aggressive is Farnbacher going to be on Haseclo here?
It's not for class position, but he wants to get further down the road. He's in a podium spot right now, which is a big recovery after that drive-through penalty for contact up in turn 1 on the opening lap by Ashton.
And in addition, they just have not had much pace this weekend relative to what we've expected from them. If they can come away with a podium, maybe even a second place, given the fact that Estev's car is wounded, what a recovery that might be.
You have to keep digging. You never know what's going to happen. You can feel you're down and out. You just got to keep digging, keep trying to execute and see if the race will come back to you a little bit.
30 minutes to go in what has been a wild and woolly Texas shootout here at Circuit of the Americas. Elliott Skier continues to lead overall. The Pro Class leader is McAleer, second overall, and with no pressure behind. His closest pursuer is Lucas in a car that has a damaged diffuser after some wild stuff following a restart.
Colin Brown is absolutely flying right now, as is Ryan Dial behind him in that Ferrari that qualified really well for day 2 here. Doesn't seem like he's got the braking ability with that Aston, and that comes down to downforce setup a little bit, but he's making these big wild moves, but he's just on the brake pedal a little bit earlier than everyone else.
Pretty good recovery from that car as well. 5th place in class after Derek DeBoer's spin.
I think he's got some diffuser damage as well, possibly, on the Aston Martin rear.
You might be right.
Hanging.
Yeah. But while we have a chance, let's hear from John Edwards, unfortunately out of the ST Racing BMW, Amanda.
Yeah, you never like talking to drivers on this side of the wall at this point of the race. And John, now you know that Elliott is leading the race, but prior you said that it was completely unnecessary what happened on track. Your perspective of what happened?
Yeah, I don't expect him to be leading for long because I'd be shocked if there wasn't some action taken. You know, if you come from Narnia down the inside and brake with blindfolds on, I have no idea what result you think is going to happen. So I saw that wasn't going to end well. I was trying to back out of it, but Colin was there. I think Colin obviously didn't know that Elliott was diving up the inside, because why would he? So super disappointing. I feel terrible for Samantha. She had a great stint, moved up a lot of spots after a tough qualifying for both of us. So we made some changes, and it seems like the car was quite a bit better, so she was doing a great job. We had the yellow that bunched everybody up, and we were basically second, or at least battling for second. I think that he already lost a spot or two from a bit of over-aggressive driving, and I think he had some red mist going into 1. Now he's leading after taking 2 of the top runners out, so super disappointing, and I'm sure he'll get a penalty.
Well, that incident is under review, by the way. That involves the car that currently leads overall, Elliott Skier. He and Adam Adelson holding the top spot, but that is pending the investigation.
Yeah, I mean, I get John's point to a certain degree. There's a funneling effect up there in turn 1, and I don't think Elliott would have just skied through the apex. I mean, I think he had it slowed down enough to probably still get to the apex there, but obviously 3 into 2 spots don't work. And John was the meat and the sandwich, had nowhere to go. When you back out, you almost make the situation worse.
There's a problem for Corey Lewis. That's the Mercedes that we saw that was off the pace, and he was running 3rd in class at the time. He and Jeff Burton were on pace for their best result of the season. Oh, Austin Clow.
That's a dodgy spot, a little touch there. You're along for the ride. Trenton Estep has just done an amazing job of hanging on to this race car. It's got to be a real handful right now.
Estep is the 2018 Porsche single-make champion here in North America. Has a lot of experience in 911s for a young man, but right now driving a very damaged 911. That diffuser flapping, and it cost him his momentum. Asa Claude goes inside. Farnbacher looking to follow the Frenchman through. And there's Colin Brown looking to recover as well. Doesn't look like Mario was able to make that pass.
Where's Colin? He's got to be to his right flank there somewhere.
This is for position, by the way. Farnbacher on Estep.
Yeah, and Colin Brown is right in the picture as well. We're just not quite seeing it there, but he was all over the rear fenders of this Acura.
Oh, elbows up for Mario Farnbacher. You can see it took a ton of counter steer, trying to keep that Acura under control.
Brian Sellers now joining the party as well. The first of the two DXDT machines coming off a very strong NOLA Motorsports weekend.
Do wonder what happened to Corey Lewis, though. He had a great run going in the sister car.
There's Dial at the back of this pack. Had a great qualifying run here this morning for grid position for tomorrow's race. As the Racers Edge team look on.
It's Ashton with the blue headphones on, watching her teammate. She's got so much faith, and why shouldn't she? In Mario Farnbacher, champion driver, Honda factory driver. Not many better behind the wheel of a GT3 car, if any.
Yeah, I mean, they'd love to get some big points here today. P2 is definitely on the cards right now with 25 minutes to go. You'd have to think with that imbalance in the race car that it's not really going to be helping the time management for Trenton Estep aboard this 53 machine.
Amanda, what are you hearing?
You just saw a shot of Ashton Harrison. Right beside her was John Maraki, and I was talking to him earlier about how do you keep your drivers motivated. They had not a great outing at New Orleans, then having that drive-through penalty. When I got over there, Mario Farnbacher had his shoulders just down inside, and John said, I have to keep these guys motivated and ready for a long race ahead. And I start that by saying just focus lap by lap. This Racer's Edge Acura is already back in podium contention with that game plan in mind.
Boy, Luke is closing the door in the face of Farnbacher. Farnbacher gave him a little shove there at the exit, but it held him up. Here comes Brown working the outside. Not for class position, but Colin Brown is able to get that done. And that breaks off the battle for the second spot in the pro class.
Yeah, Colin Brown going to work here. He's still got some time left on the board. Mercedes is so strong. I was talking to Mario about his car. He said, yeah, the Mercedes can do things that I can't do right now around this circuit. So he's watching. Trenton Estep is doing a really nice job aboard this 53 car of keeping everyone at bay with a damaged and wounded car.
Oh, Farnbacher's on the back foot here.
Here
Here
comes
comes Sellers. Here comes Dial as well. Dial making it 3 wide, 3 into 1. Does the math check out?
Nicely managed there by Brian Sellers. That was beautiful. Saw that situation coming together. Just gave Dial that inside lane, then just tucked it back inside. Superb stuff. Here comes Mario, though. So he's got inside of the Mercedes. By the time they get to the brakes, it's going to be on the dirty part of the road. How deep does Brian take it here? Mario clears him.
Mario will not be loving this because he was right on the doorstep of second in class just half a lap ago, and now he finds himself well in arrears with a car that's a buffer now between himself and his prey.
Yeah, and these are Pro-Am cars that he's fighting on his tail right now, so he's saying, just let me go. Look how tight it is there. Sellers almost into the rear of the Acura there in turn 15.
And look, Brian needs to go too because he's got a very rapid Scotsman right behind him in Ryan Dial. Ryan was so quick in qualifying earlier today for race number 2. Plus, he wants to try and get back up to Colin Brown if at all possible.
I believe that diffuser is hanging on to that Porsche there for Trenton Estep.
This overlap in the classes, sometimes it makes it difficult to follow, but boy, has it been fascinating.
And fun. Here comes Colin Brown. Got a lot of work to do, though, to get up into a podium position. He's got to catch Jan Halen. He's probably about 5 seconds down the road right now.
That diffuser is barely hanging on here, Calvin. It looked like maybe only one side was still fixed to that car, and this is only getting worse.
Yeah, and this is a problem because it's going to start shedding carbon fiber here pretty quickly.
Hey, remember we had that incident up in turn 1 that was under review. Race Control took a look at it. They said no further action, Calvin.
Yeah, I mean, Elliott Skier's got that Porsche down to the inside. I feel he's somewhat under control. I mean, for John Edwards, I understand the frustration. It's like, where am I going to go? He tried to back out of it and he turns his mate around in Colin Brown, but I think Skier just saw an opportunity and made it. You know, he just didn't sky through the apex. I think I agree with the stewards there a little bit. I understand John's frustration totally, but nonetheless, the move was on, I think.
And major implications, though, for 2 of the front-running cars. Oh, there goes that diffuser just flying out from under the car. It's barely hanging on at this point. He's going to get the meatball.
He's going to get a black flag here because this is not good news to have that piece dragging around this racetrack and shedding little splinters of carbon fiber is going to cut someone's tire down. He may get help if this thing disappears completely, but now he's going to lose all of that downforce. This car is going to be a nightmare to drive.
but at least it would be consistent.
Yeah. Gosh, you lost about 40 seconds coming down pit lane. There's a long old pit lane here at Circuit of the Americas.
On board with Mario Farnbacher. Black flag mechanical has been issued by race control. The MDK Porsche will need to come to the pit lane. That will hand second to Racer's Edge. Meanwhile, Jan Halen, Spencer Pumpelly getting the elbows out through turn 20, and it's not over yet.
This is for P2 and Pro-Am.
Side by side on the run up to turn number 1. Halen gives him a wide berth. Pumpelly on the outside. Tries to roll that speed through. Crosses him over. We've seen this time and time again, but Halen able to pull off the pass. He's up to second now in class.
Yeah, that's a really solid result for them. Didn't have the qualifying sessions they were looking for. Were pretty sharp yesterday. We're up in the top 2 or 3 most of the day, but come qualifying, they couldn't quite execute and get it together. It's a nice recovery drive here by Charlie Luck and Jan Halen.
It would be just their second podium on the season after finishing second in points by a narrow 5 tallies last year. It would be the best result of the year. Second in class, previous best third in race 2 at NOLA. And all things considered, for Spencer Pumpelly and Pedro Torres, Torres does not have much experience at the GT3 level at all. They had a podium in the first race of the year at Sonoma, maybe surprised themselves a little bit, but in a position to back that up with a second podium now where they run. It's Charlie Luck watching Jan Halen, his co-driver and son-in-law.
Yeah, it's a wonderful chemistry there, and Jan's a dad now, right? So racing now with a kid at home. Cool times for that whole family.
Under 20 minutes to go, and finally it feels like we can catch our breath. We had that yellow just before the halfway mark. That reset everything. Then you had the pit window, and that doubly reset everything. And we've had some frantic 20 minutes since we restarted the race to end up in this position. Leading overall is this car, Elliott Skier for Wright Motorsports, coming down the front straightaway. Also leading in the Pro-Am class. Adam Adelson had a strong opening stint, dropping back to the second car in line. Stephen McAleer, the leader in Pro. Then we find Jan Halen, having just passed Spencer Pumpelly on that past lap. Valentin Hasseklo, 5th overall, 4th in Pro-Am. Here's the charging Colin Brown. Mario Farnbacher up to 2nd in Pro. Ryan Dial, this is a car to keep an eye on right here. He's got the pace, and right now in the crosshairs for Ryan Dial is Brian Sellers.
With this track position, and as they run right now with a 0-4 on the back foot a little bit, this would give this 120 machine the championship lead tonight. Both the 04 and the 120 have had a pair of wins on the season. They came in at this championship round 4 points out of the lead. And that move by Elliott Skier is somewhat controversial, but the stewards have looked at it many times, I'm sure, and deemed it was an okay move. Just Edwards was just pinched there and had nowhere to go and turned Colin Brown around, but they're saying it was not Elliott Skier's problem.
So remember when we saw Corey Lewis suddenly slow? This just popped up from race control. Incident involving 45 and 91 will be reviewed post-race. So 45 is the Jan Halen car that runs 3rd overall, 2nd in class. And 91, of course, Corey Lewis, the car that was suddenly off the pace and we weren't sure why. So that might tell us at least part of the story.
Valentin Hasseklo running 4th. It's ahead of the championship lead, so it'll close the gap to them a little bit.
Derek DeBoer smiling.
He's pretty excited about this young French driver.
Yes.
They've also got Ross Gunn, another Aston Martin Racing Factory driver, filling in at times, so they're kind of splitting that role this year. But they've got pace. Great to see TRG back in GT3, led by Kevin Buckler, one of the smartest, savviest strategy guys on the pit lane.
This TRG car, painted blue, that is normal, but it's not exactly the traditional TRG blue. And Derek told me it took some convincing to get Kevin Buckler to get on board with this, but now they're pretty happy. Not if for no other reason than it's been fast all season.
Yeah, it's been a great partnership. Both Kevin and Derek work hard on all of the team partnerships. And they've been together a long, long time now. 10th year, I think, is for Derek and the TRG group. And they work really hard at their game. They live and breathe this sport in terms of getting to be at this racetrack and put in first-class entries like they have.
Here is Farnbacher. I think this could be one of those days that if the championship breaks their way, this team can look back on potentially a second-place finish on a day when they really did not have the pace to contend for a podium purely on speed and say, yep, that really helped propel us to the end result. Days like this can make or break championships.
That's how you build a championship. It's not necessarily the wins when you're a dominant factor at a racetrack. It's just damage limitations when you're on the back foot. Having a little bit of break with those other cars going out opens up the door for some big points.
Into the final 15 minutes. Here is the lone AM-class car in the field, and it is the veteran Andy Pilgrim driving this car, started by Anthony Bartone. They had a drive-through penalty as well at the start of this race, but plugging along, and ultimately this season is not about results. This is just about accelerating that learning experience for young Anthony Bartone, but right now it's the veteran Andy Pilgrim driving. Let's listen to the sounds of this V8 Mercedes. Shall we say, prominent nose of this Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo, one of the most successful GT3 platforms ever built. Always popular, seemingly always at the pointy end.
Yeah, and had a nice chat with Andy last night, and he was talking about over 20 years he's a GM factory pilot. That's an incredible record, and there's so many great memories and people he drove for and with over there at GM, but he's loving this opportunity. He's so high on Anthony Bartone's natural ability. He's more than willing to do everything it takes to get that boy up to speed here and learning the racecraft of what he's driving this year. So it's a big step up, but he's taken to it like a duck to water. It's really fun to watch.
Hey, I'm a believer. I have been so impressed with the rapid ascension of Anthony Bartone this season. Sky's the limit, it would seem, for a driver who already has that kind of pace at his limited experience level. Can't wait to see where his future takes him.
Give the game away, but there may be some big news coming from that group here in the next week or two as well, so stay tuned.
I will. Elliott Skier leads overall. Stephen McAleer runs second. Jan Halen here in the number 45, but there is that potential incident that is under review from just after the restart that hangs over this car.
Halen's flying here. Really up on the wheel. He's feeling it right now. You can see he's just into a rhythm. The car is talking to him again.
Expect nothing less. He has proven to be a plug-and-play piece of the puzzle for this Wright Motorsports team. GT3 or GT4, it does not matter. if they need someone to jump in and just go fast, Jan is their guy and has been now for a few years.
Yeah, various customers that come through their doors there at Wright Motorsport. They have the guides who work with you and get you up to speed, deliver when it's time for the pro to jump on board. But right now it's a Wright Motorsport 1-2 in the Pro-Am division. RS1 leads pro with Steve McAleer surviving that kind of ugly, awkward moment in this race where he had to give up that track position for the overlap in pit lane. Didn't do a very tidy job of doing it, and that's what kind of led to the Edwards bump with the skier and everything else.
That's right, and if you rewind the clock, really, all of that started leaving pit lane with the overlap, not relinquishing that position in the pits, and then trying to find a convenient place to get it done. And that stacked 5 cars up, and the end result was unfortunately a bit predictable.
Yeah, because you're trying to manage it. There's a stagger of cars. So if you say after you and you open the door up, suddenly everyone else is going to fill it. So McAleer wasn't quite sure what to do. He really needed to try and do it in a straightaway there and manage it a little bit more efficiently. But there's a big bottleneck of cars, and everyone's on the attack. Everyone's got good rubber, all fired up.
I mean, you're the pro racer, but I would say, or give it up in the pit lane. Skip that whole thing.
Yeah, they know the rules. It's not a surprise that he got that call. You know, you're not going to pull one over the stewards there. I mean, it was obvious for everyone to see that the 53 car, a slightly sharper stop, got that car alongside, and that's the rules. I mean, McAleer runs with these regulations every championship he runs in now. So, but races are fighters. Oh, this is the Estes Racing team that are having a very strong weekend here on the local circuit.
Yeah, located just down the road. Buda, Texas, this Estes Racing team. Adam Carroll pulls to a stop. Yeah, not a great place to be stranded.
Maybe he's doing a Control-Alt-Delete there. You see the lights coming back on here, so maybe he's just pulled it out of harm's way, but still left to look at this carefully and get some communication with he and the team.
He was 11th overall at the time, and that is still a very young team.
He's back going again.
Yep. They're learning, they're getting quicker. Hardiman had a great qualifying effort earlier today. Expect to see them at Road America with this duo. It was always going to be a partial season for the team, but there's a pretty good chance they return, I understand, at the Indy 8 Hour. Crew to be determined, but that is their aspiration, to get a little bit of endurance racing experience ahead of an ambitious program that they have planned for the years to come.
I think if Phelan gets to the tail of McAleer, he's not going to fight it. I mean, he's got a healthy lead over the next pro car, Farnbacher.
I think we've got more information on this car from the teammate of Adam Carroll with Amanda.
Yeah, I was just going to add on the Will Hardiman story. They have 200 to 300 people here this weekend with it being a home track. I said earlier in the race that he's been to this racetrack every month for the last 8 years, but did say that this is a building year for them, not a winning year.
All right, still trying to get to the bottom of whatever the issue was for the car. That cost them, I think, 2 or 3 spots on the track. Here's Colin Brown. He is tracked down. VHC, Valentin Haseclo, is currently for the 5th spot overall, 4th in Pro-Am.
Yeah, Colin's got a fast race car. He's just got to be patient here. Damage limitation and not been a great day. They really had a race-winning car here, but it all got away from them with that spin and the bump from Edwards and Skier. But don't throw it away right now. He's got a little bit of time left. Valentin's not going to be easy to pass, but I think this Mercedes is a lot stronger here at this circuit.
This is the first time here for Haseclo, and I asked him, do you feel naturally at home on this track? This is more like you would see on the tracks that you've won your championships on in Europe. And he said, yes, but I was very fast in NOLA. And yes, that is true, indisputably. So he's been right at home right away. The team loves him. They were really pleased with Ross Gunn's pace at Sonoma when he started the championship there, had conflicts. That's why he couldn't be at NOLA. And I think we'll see a combination of those two drivers alongside Derek DeBoer for the rest of the season. Here is Daniel Morad. Down the order a tad, 10th overall, 8th in class.
But he too ran well in qualifying, so he'll start at the pointier end tomorrow. Great little team, TR3, making the move over to Mercedes this year. They like the platforms. Ziad feels a lot more comfortable in this machine than he has in previous choices. And they love Daniel Morad, what he brings to the table in terms of his speed, just being easy to work with. I think he may have a home here for a while.
In the final 6 minutes, Seth Lucas, remember that car had to pit due to the diffuser damage. Excuse me, that should be Trenton Estep, excuse me. Timing screen says Seth Lucas, but it would have been Trenton. Came back in and came back out and has set a pretty fast time. Now, my timing screen says that it is Estep that has the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race. I've also been told that it might be Morad who has the fastest lap of the race. In fact, that is the case. I see it now. Daniel Morad has that. So congratulations to him. Certainly showing what he's made of behind the wheel of that TR3 Mercedes.
Maybe a precursor for tomorrow. The better starting position, maybe they can be in the big points tomorrow, Daniel Moore in that TR3 group.
Into the final 5 minutes here. This is the best battle on the track. TRG Aston versus Riley Motorsports Mercedes.
See right there on entry, Colin just able to roll a little bit more entry speed there and keep the car underneath him. Picks up the draft down the straightaway here. Aston didn't look good, was on the brakes when he was trying to make some moves earlier. It looked like he was giving up a little bit of time there. I do think there's a little bit of diffuser damage, not to the extent that the MDK Porsche has had, but there was definitely something a little bit loose there on one side of the diffuser earlier in this run. Not sure if it's disappeared now. There it is, you can see a little bit loose there on the left side.
Seems like the vast majority of the cars have been through the wars here today. I think it's going to be a late night for a lot of mechanics, unfortunately.
Yeah, it could be some interesting conversations in Parc Ferme after this one with the various drivers involved.
Brown's been able to get about this close, but this is when you get in the aero wash. The tires aren't at their freshest, so you suffer a little bit more from that aero wash running in the traffic. Doing his best to stalk Haseklo for 5th. Those were the top 3, and it is closing up a little bit between them. Skier, McAleer, and Halen. And we come back to that fight right there between Haseklo and Brown.
Should be white flag next time by for the leaders, I would think, looking at the time left on the board. I think for Stephen McAleer, it doesn't look like Jan Halen's going to get to him, but I'm sure he would have elected to just let him go. I know everyone wants to finish as high up overall as possible, but you've got to think big picture, and this is the team, when they grab that pole position, they seem to bring it home. It'll be the 3rd weekend in a row that they've done that from Eric Filgueras' great job, and we look at him, he's got a smile right now. He didn't look that way yesterday morning when I was chatting to him about his race car and how it felt. I said to him, just hang in there, mate. You've got a great team, and they'll continue to work, and they certainly did overnight and turn this car around.
Yeah, remarkable. If you had told him you're going to be in a position to win this race with under 3 minutes to go back on Thursday or Friday, I don't know if he would have believed you. He was so down in the dumps about their pace, but to RS1's credit, they went to work. They found a package that was stable and quick, and the 2 drivers have done their jobs very, very well. And
the other thing is, Eric does not have a ton of seat time here at COTA, so he's been here before, but not in a while. And I think that combination of a car that didn't feel good, not knowing the track particularly well, didn't help.
This would be the 3rd time that that tandem, Filgueras and McAleer, have won the first race of a weekend. They won overall at Sonoma, race 1. They won overall NOLA, race 1. On pace to win in class here in race 1 of the weekend at Circuit of the Americas. The car that's closing in as the white flag does wave for the leader, Elliott Skier. Jan Halen, that is not for class position. There's no real incentive there with this little amount of time left for those two to start fighting amongst themselves. But now, Elliott Skier just needs to make 20 more perfect turns, and he and Adam Adelson will be overall winners at COTA.
Yeah, and I mean, the turning point was how aggressive he was up into turn 1 there, and it was close in terms of the call. I'm sure the stewards looked at it very carefully. They'd run numerous replays to make sure they were making the right call, but they elected to see it in favor of Elliott Skier not being at fault there. And it's led to another victory. They're 3rd on the season, potentially just got to finish off this lap.
Skier had his career resuscitated by this relationship with Adam Adelson. He was coaching Adam. They went GT4 racing together. After a few years in the racing wilderness for Elliott, had such an impressive young career, junior career in single-make Porsche racing, winning a championship. Thought that might jumpstart him to more opportunities. And then it went quiet for a couple of years, but he and Adam Adelson hooked up, became close friends, and now constant threats for race wins and championships, first in GT4 a year ago and now at the GT3 level as well.
Similar story to Daniel Morad, really. He's really been struggling to get full-time seats, but every time he shows up, he impresses. And same thing with Elliott Skier, and they've just got wonderful chemistry with this group, building a great championship season together.
They won race 1 at Sonoma. They won race 1 in class at NOLA. They figured to add a race 1 win at COTA as well, and to make their first overall win of the season to boot. Elliott Skier just a couple of turns to go for the Wright Motorsports team that gave him his start with Porsche. Elliott Skier, the left-hand bend of turn number 20. The checkered flag awaits. Skier, Adelson, and Wright Motorsports win race 1 at Circuit of the Americas. The Pro Class win goes to RS1. McAleer and Phil Garris get the job done. Their third win of the season. Jan Halen crosses the line, third overall, second in Pro-Am. Pompelli and Torres back on the podium for the first time since the first win of the season. Haseklo barely held on to fend off Colin Brown, fifth and sixth. Then Farnbacher second in the Pro Class on a day in which they did not appear they had the pace to fight at the very front. Good recovery from them, seventh in the overall running order. And now we watch the AM Class car, Andy Pilgrim, with one final tour of the track at speed to clinch another big win. And one other note, we were wondering about would the two cars that went out early, Franco and Hull, would they make it to half distance? They did not. They turned just 16 laps apiece. The leader turned 40, which means they will not be classified. No points for those two cars, and that is a big hit in the Pro Class Championship fight.
Big blow. Really hard to recover from days like that.
And the question still hovers over them too. Will those cars be repairable in time for race 2 of the weekend tomorrow?
Initial reports are not great coming from pit lane, but they'll continue to evaluate.
Here comes Andy Pilgrim for Bartone Brothers Racing with real-time racing. Mercedes power across the line to take the checkered flag and win in the AM class along with Anthony Bartone. Well, that race did calm down eventually, but that first hour and 10 minutes was pressure-packed for so many. The timing of that yellow was so crucial, stacking the field back up. And then with the pros back in shortly afterwards, when that pit window came back open, some really tense moments. Some came out on the better end of it, and others, well, they'll be ruining the way that the restart played out.
Yeah, a few teams got to dust themselves off literally tonight and see if they can make the race tomorrow. It's going to be a fight to be back on the grid for a couple of those teams with heavy accident damage. For Elliott Skier, I know he's going to have a couple of people not exactly happy with him in the paddock tonight, but his team will certainly be giving him full support for what he needed to do to grab the win.
Ultimately, the stewards agreed. The move was on, and Skier held on to take the overall win by nearly 2.5 seconds. Let's look at our provisional race results from a contentious race number 1 here in Austin, Texas. Pro Class. Podium to McAleer and Phil Garris, Farnbacher and Harrison, Lucas and Estes. Those are the only 3 of the 5 cars still running at the finish. The Conquest and Bimmerworld cars did not make it to the 50% mark. They will not be classified and will not score points here today. That could be something we look back on at the end of the season and start to ruminate over, considering the potential implications of that result. Let's get a look at the Pro Class results here. And another strong drive from this RS1 team, new to GT3 racing at the beginning of the year. that storyline's almost dead and buried at this point. They are veterans and they have proven it.
Yeah, just incredible on the back of 11 race wins during the championship season last year in Pirelli GT4 America, and now they come out of the box here with 3 wins out of the first 5 races.
You know, you might have to wonder what might have been for MDK. There was great pit work that gave them what should have been the lead. The way it all played out, they ended up with that damage, and that cost them dearly. They had a chance to win this race.
They did. Really strong weekend for them so far, so we'll see what they can show up with tomorrow. But, yeah, definitely a team on the rise.
2 young drivers on the rise as well, with Estep and Lucas, with all the support that they've been receiving from Mark Kwame and that team. Man, this is shaping up to be an interesting day tomorrow, and first and foremost, we just hope we can see both the Conquest and the Bimmer World cars on the grid for that race after a heavy, heavy crash right around the midway mark in this race. Contact coming down this front straightaway, and it was wheel-to-wheel, tire-to-tire. It almost looked like an open-wheel crash the way that the car, the Ferrari of Franco, climbed up on the BMW of Hull.
Yeah, just suddenly if those front wheels just get outside of their fenders, they just like Velcro, it just attaches itself to the other race car, and it just went for a big ride, immediate impact and damage to both cars just along for the ride. So unfortunate. I think if you've given each other a little bit, we saw others doing similar things, to be honest with you. Down the backstretch a few times we saw cars doing equal things to each other and just getting away with it.
Cars headed back to Parc Fermé, where they will be inspected by the SRO technical team. And while they make their way back to Parc Fermé, let's look at race 1 highlights. It was all started when James Safrodis waved the green flag, marking his 350th weekend of what is now SRO America Racing. From pole, Eric Figueres consolidated his lead, but at the back, a spin there from Scott Smithson. They ultimately did have a decent recovery to come home 8th overall. Here's a big spin as well from Hardiman. Amazingly, this car was able to continue, although it did have a technical issue late in the race. Here's a big move. It was Harrison on luck here in the early going. This is fighting for the final spot in the top 10.
Yeah, just great battles throughout the day. Little moment here for Torres, just lose the front end a little bit. Adelson just slides through and grabs that position.
A big battle early in the going. This, though, was that big crash we talked about. Franco and Hull coming together, and then that wild ride into the barriers. Both drivers, though, walked away.
Yeah, I think it was the left rear and right front that came into contact there. And this is the overlap in pit lane. This is what caused the big compression of the field right here. Magler doesn't manage it very well. Colin Brown is through, and then that's Estep to the inside, and that just creates big schmozzle as they come on in the front straightaway a couple of corners later. Here we go. Edwards the meat and the sandwich there. Nowhere to go. Skier committed down the inside. Colin comes through, kind of carves into the corner. Contact.
Colin Brown did well to recover as well, but at the very front, no penalty issued, and it was Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson who took the checkered flag first. Well done by that duo. This is the duo that won in the Pro Class, and Amanda is there to chat with our Pro Class winners.
Well, Stephen Maclear and Eric Figueres recapping the race for themselves in that second half. Stephen, was that racy? How was it for you?
It was very exciting. You know, we just got off slow on the pit stop, and the MDK guys got around us. I asked on the radio if I had to let them go, and I knew we were going to get that call, but, you know, so I let them by coming out of 13. Went into the braking zone for 14, and just a bunch of cars stacked up. It looks like Colin hit me pretty hard from behind. Certainly not intentional, I don't think. That got me crossed up. I hit Trenton, damaged his car, and then that thing was fun to drive for 35 minutes there. But just tried to play my cards right, knew where the leaders were, knew where the class leader was, and my good buddy Elliott Skier there in the right car, I was trying to keep up with him, but we lost a little bit of speed after that. So really good job from him. Great points day. That's what it's all about. We're trying to gain as much points as we can, and I want to say hello to Tom Kay. I know he's here, and thanks to the RS1 guys. It's been a really good day.
Eric, I love the little thumbs up you gave the camera when Stephen was leading, but I want to go back to your stint. There's just when you at the top of the field, what is it about you being able to put so much seconds between you and the person behind you?
Well, first of all, RS1 gave us a fantastic car. This is the second Saturday in a row that I think I've built Steven a pretty good lead, and it all came undone from a caution, which is not what we hope in that situation, but he fought like hell and did a fantastic job. So, the RS1 guys were really working hard. Steven's doing a really good job of helping with move the car forward with setup, and we're all learning. We're understanding more about this car, and I feel like we're getting better every single weekend. But I got to say, 2 days ago, we thought we were a little bit out of the ballpark, and really we worked really hard, as a team. So we continue to do that. We did that last year. We're doing it again. Again, my job was a little bit easier today. Steven worked really hard. The team did a really great job with the pit stop, and we'll see what we got tomorrow. Thanks so much to Community Beer Works, Porsche Naples, everyone who puts this program together. My mom's birthday is on Tuesday, so happy birthday, Mom.
Congratulations, guys. And Steven did mention his good buddy, Elliott Skier, got the win here today. And Elliott, man, the celebration. I love you guys coming together and you congratulating him. I want to talk about the second half of this race with you as well. People have described it as racy. Steven said, wow, that was interesting. What about for you?
Yeah, same thing. I'm watching Adam scurry off and run away, thinking, oh, great, I could just settle in and have a nice little pace race going. And then we see what happens right before the pit window. So it instantly goes to, oh, great, this is going to be warfare. But just incredibly proud of the pit stop getting us out of there. He put me in a great spot. We came out in a very strong spot. And then just getting into the race is... I'm starting to build some confidence in a GT3 car and some experience along with it. Boy, did I have to use all of it and then some out there. But just somehow through all the kerfuffle, we came out in front and then just settle into the pace race I hope to do. I just wasn't expecting to have all that right before it. So incredibly proud of everyone at Wright. All of our guys, Pat, John, Bob, they're just doing an incredible job and cannot thank them enough.
Well, Adam, I do want to talk to you as well. And I know you're just looking at that podium there. You will be in the center of that. How hard was it watching this second half of the race with Elliott in there?
Oh, I mean, I have utmost confidence in him, so not too difficult. But, we haven't been in a situation where we've been leading overall. And I have to say the moves that he put on, the racecraft that he exhibited was top-notch, up there with the best moves that you'll see in the world. I'm super grateful to be able to learn from a driver like him, and it's also awesome to go hand the car off to him knowing that all I need to do was survive and keep the car somewhere within reach of the lead, and he's going to go get it.
Congratulations to those guys, and said he doesn't know what he's doing just yet, but when you talk about the ampere between Anthony Bartone and Andy Pilgrim, Anthony, I want to come to you. You told me yesterday that I don't even know what I'm doing just yet. What's going to happen when you finally do figure this thing out?
Yeah, it was just being funny when I said that. Every time you get in the car, it's a learning experience. So I don't know when I would say that day comes, but hopefully maximize the car that we're given from the team that works really hard more often.
When we showed highlights of Anthony on track, we just talked about the raw talent that we see at an Anthony. What do you see when you watch him?
Yeah, his dad's right next to me. I don't feel like a proud father because Tony's his dad, but it's a really good feeling seeing the lad doing so well. It really is. He pushes himself. When he says, I don't know anything yet, that means he's just still hungry for information. And he is, and he executes so well. And he's got this old guy chasing as hard as he can to even keep up with him now, which is exactly what I'm supposed to do.
Well done, gentlemen. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
All 6 of our class winners heard from right there in Victory Circle with Amanda. Nice work by her. Full results, 1st through 17th here today. Some, for them, a story of success. For others, man, this was a race to forget.
It really was. Some big hits in the points were taken. For others, took advantage of that situation, so they'll be happy tonight. Everyone has to focus forward in terms of another race coming at them fast here tomorrow. Hopefully we'll see all of the cars back on the grid, but a lot of work to be done for a couple of those teams, certainly.
That is the big question that needs to be answered, and we'll try to do so before tomorrow when we come on air, 2 o'clock local time here in Austin, Texas for race 2 of the weekend, race 6 of the season. But your overall winners, for the first time this year as overall winners, Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier. Podium celebration is underway. Let's listen in.
RS1 Porsche 911, Eric Filgaris and Stephen McAleer.
TJ Clark with the introduction of the race winners in the pro class.
All right, drivers, let's see those trophies.
And the trophies lifted on high. Interesting mix there, I think, for this group. Certainly for Filgaris and McAleer. Have to be happy they won, but that second place for Racer's Edge might as well feel like a win based on how out to lunch they appeared to be at various times. And then for the MDK guys, man, they might have been the ones standing in the middle step if things had broke just slightly differently.
Yeah, without that damage to the car, I think they were definitely in the fight there today, so they've got to feel good about that, try and come back stronger tomorrow. I think you're right about the 93 team. I think, they're on the back foot a little bit with the setup of the car here this weekend at COTA, and then with the penalty for Ashton getting in the back of Smithson there on the opening lap. Nice big points, and a couple of the teams that they're fighting in the championship got a 0 score as well on top of that.
The tradition that started with Daniel Sexton Gurney on the rostrum at Le Mans, the traditional champagne spray to celebrate a podium finish in a sports car race. Can't get too excited, though, for these Saturday wins, can you, Calvin? You have to do it again tomorrow.
You can't celebrate too hard. That's a lemonade, maybe.
Maybe so. Now we reset the podium for the Pro-Am class, which gets to go second because of the fact that they had a Pro-Am car winning overall. Let's a look at Charlie Luck there. He's got Jan Halen just over his shoulder. Those two second places you can see on Charlie's hat there. And look, they needed a good result. It had not been a good start to the season for them. This maybe wasn't the ultimate performance they were hoping for, but still, this is something that can jumpstart their championship.
Yeah, get back into it. They came into this round 21 points back, so not insurmountable. They'll keep digging deep here and see what they can do. A solid points for them.
Back-to-back podiums for them after no podiums in the first 3 races. In fact, finishes that really weren't representative of their potential at various times. So that is a big deal for them as they seek a championship. It would be the second for Jan at this level in this series, but it would be the first for Charlie, former GT America SRO 3 class champion going back a couple of years.
And I think they're still learning that new Porsche. I mean, they're getting more and more weekends under them as a group with Wright Motorsport running in another championship as well. So they're just building that notebook. They should get stronger and stronger as the season progresses.
The Lone Star flag flutters high above Circuit of the Americas. Amazing that this track has already been here for over a decade at this point. It feels like it was just yesterday that they were talking about breaking ground and Mario Andretti was turning the first ceremonial laps here in his 1978 World Championship winning Lotus. But a lot of history has taken place here in a short amount of time. World champions have been crowned here and plenty of good sports car racing too over the years.
These guys had a feisty race.
They did.
Torres and Pompelli, that's great.
Second podium for them, as mentioned. Best results, matching their best result of the season, which came in the season opener, by the way. They were third in the first race. Really announced their presence. Spencer, certainly nothing new to this level of racing, but this team, it was a big step. And for Pedro as well.
I think Spencer's a great guy to have on board when you're building an organization like they are, because he knows what it takes. I mean, he's a very sharp guy. He understands racing better than anyone I feel in the paddock or equal to. And I think it's great to have him as a sponge to kind of draw all the information from.
But he's an asset because he's been on both sides of the box. He's been a strategist in major endurance racing before. So having the experience from the team side as well as from inside the cockpit, Spencer Pompelli certainly an asset, but standing there at the center, your overall winners here today from Wright Motorsports, Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson. You got the AM class guys there in the mix as well with Andy Pilgrim and Anthony Bartone. Doing the hat dance now, switching from Pirelli to VP, of course. Trophy collection continues to grow for these 8 drivers here this weekend. Oh, they're going to go ahead and celebrate by spraying the champagne, and we're going to say farewell. Wrapping up our coverage of Race 1 of the weekend for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Tomorrow's race 2 coming your way at 2 o'clock local time on all these same streaming stations. Hope you join us for that. But for now, we say so long from Circuit of the Americas.
One more time.